So, apparently, I am live. Welcome to Dazatron's Diorama Llama, and this is my first live stream, and I suppose a character or toy spotlight. So, I'm a bit scared if I'm being honest. I can see the live button there, I can see this end broadcast kind of banner sticking out at me from the screen, and I'm not sure how this is all going to go. But if you can see this, because I haven't tested this, I'm very professional, as you can tell. Um, yeah, but if you can see this and you want to join in, get on those comments. I'll be happily to chat with you. So hopefully you've been watching the channel for a while. If you haven't and you're brand new to the channel, you are more than welcome. Um, it'd be great, as I've already said, to chat to you, and I'd love for you to check out the content that's already there on my channel, which is usually me creating dioramas aimed at beginners, just encouraging people to make the most of their toys, their collections, um, and just having fun with the hobby, really. It's quite nice to be able to mix the two things and do something kind of craft based, um, as well as kind of collecting, obviously, these kind of figures and characters that we love. And so, yeah, my channel is all about me just sharing what I do. And hopefully that might inspire you to do the same. So, do forgive me if the quality of this broadcast isn't very good. I don't know what the audio quality is going to be like. I have got a cheap microphone, I have to say, set up. I haven't got another camera. I've just got the kind of rear view camera that is on my laptop. So hopefully, again, the quality of that will be sufficient for you guys. Hopefully, my Wi-Fi connection will also be good enough to broadcast this and not cause any issues. But yeah, if there is any issues, do let me know in the comments. And yeah, let's get on with this then, shall we? So anyway, then, so on the screen you can see a character called Steel Jeeg. If you have been with me for a while, I think this was early or mid last year, you would have seen this character or this toy here. So this was my first Jeeg toy. See if I can pick this up without killing everything. So this is a reproduction of a 1970s toy or version of this, really. It's a mold of, as I've already said, this character called Steel Jeeg, or Kotetsu Jeeg, I think he's known in Japan. And as I said, this is a reproduction, so it's a 1990s version. It is by Takara, who made the original. And this one here, little mini guy, that is a 1970s original. So can't find much information about this guy. There is information about this line here, and I'll talk to you a bit more about that in a bit. But there's not a lot of information about the mini figures. From what I can tell, it was Takara making, I suppose, a budget line of their Magna Robo line, which is this line here. So this was their budget version. I have seen some of these carded on eBay, and they are crazy expensive. I managed to get this guy loose for a pretty good buy in the UK, so I was very happy. I snapped him up, and he has got the same kind of gimmick, really. So the idea is that there's these magnets inside, and you can kind of pull off the arms, you can pull off his head there, you can pull off the legs. But the little mini version here does have limited articulation, so there's no kind of elbow bends or knee bends. There's no kind of missile action, so you can't shoot his fists or missiles out of his stomach as you can with this guy here. So this guy has detachable fists. He does have knee bend there, so he has pretty good articulation. And of course, you can move his head and remove his head and arms, just like we mentioned with the mini version. So I particularly liked this one because it was a clear plastic alternative, or redeco. I'm not sure what you would call it really. And I do like clear plastic. I'm a bit of a sucker for that, even though I know it can be brittle. I know you can get breakages, but I just love it. I think it looks great. And again, it was a good buy on eBay about a year ago. So I snapped him up because I just love the design of this character. I wish I had some attachment to it as a kid, in the sense that, I wished I kind of watched the show, but as far as I'm aware, we never got Kotetsu Jeeg in the UK when I was a child. But he's designed by Go the Guy, and Go the Guy did create one of my fave shows growing up, which was Starfleet. And that was a marionette show. And he also designed some other characters that I became familiar with when I got into the kind of anime scene in the 90s. So he's also responsible for kind of super robots and the characters Mazinger Z, Devilman is another one of his characters. That's probably one of his most famous characters, actually. Devilman, Cutie Honey, I think, is another one. And he's got a very retro style. He's one of the kind of, I suppose, the godfathers of anime, really, and manga. So if you think of kind of Astro Boy, who's kind of, one of the earliest characters, you know, Go the Guy was around about a similar kind of time. And what's interesting, in particular about Steel Jeeg, and I shared this on one of my earlier videos, is just the way this kind of toy um, inspired really my kind of collection. I love Transformers. I've been into Transformers since I was a child, growing up on the G1 cartoon, and in particular, Transformers the movie. Absolutely love that film, still do. And that's really what spawned or started me collecting Transformers. Didn't really collect a huge amount when I was a child because we didn't have the money. But as I've kind of got back into collecting a few years ago, yeah, that's what I wanted to start looking at, was collecting Transformers again. And then I discovered a line called Micronauts and Microman. And if you've watched my earlier video where I talk about this character here, um, you would have heard me kind of talk about how the Microman line kind of spawned Transformers. So it's all connected, and I think this is why I've got such an affinity with this kind of character. And another reason is that his figure, the original version of this figure, came out in 1976, and that is the year I was born. So that's another nice little connection. But actually, do you know what? I just love the design. I just think it's such a cool and unique and different kind of robot and kind of mecha design. It just stands out against all the other kind of designs that are out there. So yeah, I've just always been drawn to it. I love the color scheme of it. I love the fact that he kind of has these kind of drill kind of weapons and lots of other attachments. I love the way in the anime he kind of assembles, so he gets kind of shot out of this kind of this spaceship. In fact, I've just got this one here. So that kind of spaceship there is called Big Shooter. I think, yeah, I'm sure that's what it's called, Big Shooter. And that fires out all the kind of different parts of Steel Jeeg, his arms, his legs, his head, his fists, all of that. And he kind of connects together to become this big kind of mecha. And the hero of the story, who is Hiroshi Shiba, he kind of sits inside the head piece there. And that, in fact, this figure here, if I just pull off his head, because he also shares that gimmick, you'll see then you've got the little Hiroshi. Is it Hiroshi? Yeah, Hiroshi Shiba character there, kind of forming the head. So it's quite cool, really, because this is a gimmick that was used later by Transformers. Became kind of the headmaster gimmick, where these little robots became the heads of Transformers. And this guy at the back here, this is a recent purchase as well. In fact, I've gone a bit kind of Jeeg crazy this month. I managed to sell a few bits on eBay, and I was fortunate to be able to pick up a few bits. Hey, we got somebody online. Fantastic. Hi, Louis. I think, have I got that right? But welcome. Nice to see you popping in. Yeah, what's going on here? My first live stream. So I don't know how I'm coming across, really. If you can hear me and see me okay. But yeah, feel free to comment and join in. It's great to have you on board. So yeah, I'm just sharing some of my pickups this month. As I said, I managed to get a little bit extra cash from selling a few bits on eBay, so I was able to kind of purchase a few things that I wouldn't normally be able to get, because this guy's quite expensive actually. I managed to pick him up from a place called Shozi, and got him for a reasonable price. Hello, Briscoe. Fantastic. Nice to see you. Welcome. So this is the Metamorphose G Creed, I think it's called. And what's lovely about this figure, thinking about what I've just been talking about, my love of Transformers, my love of this kind of character, and this Magna Robo line, it kind of brings it all back kind of full circle. So this company, I'm trying to think if it's Sentinel Toys, it might be Sentinel Toys. They've created this transforming version of Steel Jeeg, which is, I just think, really cool. In fact, I might, give me a moment, I have to just show you a picture. So if you're not familiar with this figure, let's see if I can find a photo what it looks like. So it's Metamorphose Jeeg. Now, as I said, this is my first live stream, so if we do get interrupted by my daughter or my cat, I apologise. I'm actually in my daughter's room today because she's out partying, so it was a good opportunity, quiet space, to just kind of test this equipment out and see if it works. Here we go. So here's a picture of what this guy looks like in its vehicle mode. And one of the nice things about it is where you can attach these kind of drill weapons on the side, and they're attached magnetically, which is a lovely little nod to the kind of vintage toy, which again also attaches magnetically. So one of the other reasons why I'm doing a live broadcast today is because one of my other pickups was this beauty here. So let's see if I can get all of these in. Let me just lift up the camera a little bit. Just put that down there. There we go. Move these over here. So yeah, this at the back here is, it's not the original version. I wish it was from the 70s, but that would be ridiculous money, more money than I can afford. But I managed actually to pick up this one from Etsy, of all places. I didn't even know you could pick up vintage toys off Etsy. I managed to get this one from Adam's Toy Shop, I think it's called, or Adam's Toys, based in Hong Kong. And this is the reproduction. So it's the normal version, not the clear version, which I had before, which is this one here. This is the reproduction of the original toy. and also the horse that went with it, and it's kind of in this kind of combination pack. But I do love kind of Japanese kind of retro packaging. There's just something about it, and a few of the people that I'm on Discord with in the Transformers community, are often picking up Diaclone, which is kind of like the pre-Transformer line from Takara, and the early kind of Transformer figures, again boxed, and they're just beautiful to look at. I mean, I'm not really I do keep boxes. I don't know what you guys are like. I don't know if you keep your boxes and stuff. Thankfully, I've got a bit of loft storage. So I do keep boxes for my newer figures because I don't buy a huge amount of vintage toys. So I keep them up there. But yeah, when you're buying vintage, the obviously buying it boxed really puts up the price. So I don't have a lot of vintage boxes for exactly that reason. I tend to just buy a lot of loose toys because I can get them a lot cheaper. I like to kind of get them out of the packaging anyway. I like to see them. I like to play with them. But I saw this advertised on Etsy, mint box. It's the 1998 version. So, it's still over 20 years old, which I think is still classed as vintage now. And I just couldn't resist. I thought I need this version. And I was in two minds. Do I open it? Do I just leave it in the box? Mint. And so I've kind of held on to it for a few days and had a little think. And I thought, nah, I'm going to open it. I'm going to get it in the box. So part of the reason for me doing this live stream tonight, or whatever time it is where you are, is about me kind of just opening this up and seeing what it's like and preserving this moment, because it's quite a big moment for me, to get this to get this really cool figure. So let's have a look, shall we? Actually, I'll tell you what, while I've got them here, if you are interested, so I have, as I said, I've mentioned this guy kind of spawned one of the Transformers, essentially. So the Robo line, which this is part of, which is again that gimmick of being able to remove the body parts. That was part of the Microman line. From the Microman line, when they got Micro Change. So Micro Change, we had characters who we now know as Megatron. We have characters that we now know as Soundwave. So they started in this original Micro Change line. And the Micro Change line, the idea was that these were, I suppose, robots that became everyday objects. So if you're a fan of Transformers, if you kind of watch Transformers at all, most Transformers, they are kind of like jets and cars. And then you get these random ones like Megatron, who's a gun. And as I said, Soundwave, who is a Walkman, a kind of a cassette player. And when you think about that, that's quite weird, because they're not really dangerous, are they? They're not really kind of, you wouldn't kind of, you would attack somebody with a Walkman. Okay, you'd attack somebody with a gun, but the fact that Megatron becomes this tiny gun that somebody else has to wield is just a bit strange. But of course, they had to kind of tie that into the story, because Hasbro got the rights from Takara, who invented these, and so they then had to kind of come up with a story for this. So if you wonder why it's a bit weird, that's why, because it came from the Microman line, and Micromen, the whole idea of them, but they were kind of tiny figures, actually about this kind of size, and the idea was that they were actually that size. They came from another planet, and they are living on Earth, disguised as toys. And so the idea then that there are other characters in the line who become everyday objects makes complete sense. That you would get cameras and a wristwatch and, as we said, a Walkman, and maybe even guns. Is a gun an everyday object? I don't know. But yeah, kind of small objects that these things could disguise themselves as. That makes sense. So then when Transformers took that over, bit of a weird connection. But of course, we've grown up with these characters and we love them. So I love the connection with all of these. But another line that this particular character spawned, Steel Jeeg, were these guys. So let's see if I can just push him in the shot. So that is Force Commander. And this here is Baron Karza. Now, if you know of these guys, I'd love to see your comments. If you had any of these growing up, this guy's a little bit floppy. This one, hopefully, he will stand up. So we've got Baron Karza, who's the bad guy on the right. Force Commander in his kind of centaur form there. Let me move him out the way. Let's just see if you can kind of see him. So he's got his steed there, and you can kind of remove this body. It kind of clips in there. Push him in place. So Mego, which is another toy company, they got the rights to these Magna Robo kind of designs, or the gimmick. And then they came up with their own designs during the kind of Star Wars era, and released these characters amongst other characters as well. And they were really, really popular. In fact, they were the most popular toy line in the 70s. And Mego are quite famous for turning down the Star Wars. There's a bit of a story around that, where apparently it wasn't like everybody who was involved in Mego was like, no, we're not doing Star Wars. We don't want that line because we've got this really successful line called Micronauts. Apparently there's one guy who made the slip up and said no. And when the head of Mego found out, he wasn't a happy man, apparently. So I don't know how true these stories are, but you can kind of go online and find out about that. But yeah, these were kind of some of the most popular sci-fi toys at the time. And they're fantastic. If you don't know anything about the Micronauts line, I would definitely encourage you, look them up. They are brilliant toys. And the great thing about this is that you can then, combine these. So I can take off Baron Karza's arm and put it on here. So you can do this whole kind of mix and match thing going on. I could remove that again. Oops, there goes the missile. And put him on top of here. And so you just get this really cool kind of feature where you can kind of combine different parts of the different toys and kind of customize them, really. So I just love that feature. The articulation on these, they aren't fantastic now in today's standards, but for the time, they were amazing. The fact that they had knee joints and elbow joints, which, it's a standard, isn't it, nowadays? But back then, you just didn't have it. So these were some of the most articulated toys from the 70s, which is, fantastic. So let's put Jeeg's arms on Baron Karza. There we go. And so, so that's one of the gimmicks. And, you can take off the missiles at the back as well and attach them onto the arms. So there's lots of, customization, I suppose, going on. Anyway, that's me talking about these characters: Micronauts, Transformers, Magna Robo, Steel Jeeg, or Kotetsu Jeeg, as he's known. So I'm just going to move all of these bits out of the way. And let's get on with the unboxing. So So let me just show you what this looks like from each side. So you can see you've got a nice view of the character there in its colours. You've got Panzeroid, so a nice shot of the horse. And then turn this over. Here we go. So we've got a shot there of the different things you can do with the character, so the way you can kind of customize it with the missiles. We've got the missile action there. Obviously shown as well with the Panzeroid character, which is also again used, as we've already seen in the Micronauts line. You could take off the legs and add these wheels on, so it becomes almost this kind of like this vehicle. And again, you could also attach the body to where the head is there. Another interesting thing that I haven't mentioned, which I only found out recently, was this was one of the first toys where a toy company sponsored an animation to be made for the toy. So, we're kind of used to that. If you grew up in the 80s, like I did, and I'm sure many of you are watching me now could identify with that. That's where most of us kind of got into the toy scene, was kind of watching these giant adverts, weren't they? These cartoon shows that we loved, they were just there to sell toys. We didn't know that when we were kids. We just enjoyed watching the characters, the stories, collecting the toys, and playing with them, coming up with our own stories. But we just assumed that was kind of the 80s. But actually, back in the 70s, Takara, it was said, were responsible for Transformers, many other toy lines that we kind of know and love. They took this figure, Steel Jeeg, this toy that they were kind of developing at the time, and they asked Go Nagai. So Go Nagai, the guy I was talking about earlier, who responsible for the super robots, Mazinger Z. I can't think what the other guy's name is, and of course characters like Devilman. People think that he kind of designed the character first, and then Takara made a toy of it, where actually it didn't work that way. They were developing Microman. They were developing this Magna Robo line, which is the use of magnets. And they showed a prototype to Go the Guy. And I think it was another guy who was working for Takara, whose name, slipped out of my head. And so they asked Go Nagai to kind of develop the design, and he came up with this. He came up with Steel Jeeg, and they then produced a manga, a comic book essentially, and an animation, or an anime as they're known in Japan. And that then spawned this kind of hit, which was Steel Jeeg. So it's really cool that this was one of the first cartoons, as I said, that became this kind of big advertisement for the toy line. And it was really popular. So so that's quite cool as well, because again, me growing up in the 80s with He-Man, Masters of the Universe, Transformers, where again these toy companies sponsored the cartoon so they could advertise the toys. It's just quite cool that this kind of is a flashback to that. It's one of the earliest to do that. So let me see if I can open this without causing lots of damage. So just going to prise this open. There we go. Just going to slot that in there and see if I can just give this a little bit of a push, because I don't want to bend it. There we go. So you can't see this that well. I will make sure it's in shot in a moment. I just don't want to cause any damage to the box. So let's pull this out. Here we go. Look at that. That looks fantastic. Yeah, so you can see it's got a polystyrene kind of casing on this. Let's remove. So we've got the instructions here. Now I did get a set of these in the clear version. We've also got the stickers there. Don't think I'm going to put the stickers on this, if I'm being honest. I think I would keep them as they are. So I'm just going to move those out of the way. Yeah, Briscoe, it really has it. I've been totally in two minds whether to actually open this or not. And I think if I was kind of like a minting box collector, I probably would completely just keep this in the box and just have it on display in the box. But then, you know, if I do that, you don't get to see all of that, do you? You know, and it's just gorgeous, isn't it? In the box, it just looks fantastic. I love the way it's kind of displayed, you know, like that. And it seems a shame not to see that because, yeah, you can see a bit of Jeeg in the packaging because you've got the window there, but that's it. You know, and it's gorgeous. You know, all that kind of vintage goodness. It seems a shame not to do that. So yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I've been very much in two minds for the past few days. Do I open this or not? But I thought, yeah, I've got to go with my gut on this. I want to play with the toys that I buy. So yeah. So here is the leaflet inside, which is fantastic. A lovely piece of kind of artwork. I think that is by Go and the Guy. It certainly looks like his kind of style. And the anime was produced by, is it Toei Animation? I'm sure they did Battle of the Planets as well. I could be wrong. Yeah, I might be wrong actually on that one. So again, we've got the figure shots there and the instructions, and then let's have a look on the back. And look at that. So again, some kind of artwork from the manga. And then, as you often see with lots of these kind of particularly Japanese mecha characters, you get these shots of them where you can kind of see all the inner workings. I know I've seen versions of Astro Boy that are like this, and lots of other kind of mecha or kind of robot characters. So that's really cool. Now, obviously, I don't read Japanese, but there's lots of there's a guide to what all of these bits are and what they do. I might have to use Google Translate on that and see if I can find out. Yeah, but that's really cool. So let's put that out of the way. So we've got bits of sellotape on here. There's actually quite a lot of sellotape on here. So here we go. In fact, I might cut that again, I think, actually. Here we go. Let's do the side here. It's already open. And that side's open as well. Here we go. So those are all the little bits there. So we've got the extra fists. So those are the closed fists. So I think he might have. He should have some open fists as well. I wonder if that's those. Yeah, that's those. So yeah, he's got a pair of fists where you can kind of hold this kind of lance. So I'm not going to open those. I think I'll keep those on their sprues and just kind of stick to what we've got here. Let's just lean that on there. See if I can pull this guy out without causing any damage. Because polystyrene's not the best, is it? Gosh, that's scary. Okay, here we go. And just look at the colours on that. And the nice thing is as well, is really stiff. Not kind of super stiff that you're kind of worried about it, but when I compare this to my Micronauts characters, at least with these knees, they kind of hold the shape. Whereas with Baron Karza from Micronauts, he doesn't hold his shape that well. Fantastic. And again, you can remove these parts. So he's looking very cool there. And right, let's pull out Panzeroid, which later became Oberon, which is the white one for Force Commander in Micronauts, and Andromeda, which is the black version for Baron Karza. So he's got some there. See, I'm going to have to remove the hooves from here to be able to attach those, which is a little bit of a shame, but I can't have him with no feet. That's going to be a bit weird. So let's go ahead and remove those as carefully as we can. This is no longer mint in box. That's a scary thought, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not going to sell this guy. I love this character too much. So it's going to be a pride and place, my collection. So it's okay. I'm not going to stress about it. So what was that? Let's have a look. Briscoe in the comments. Let's show this one up on the screen. So Briscoe, when I first started collecting original Star Wars figures in the mid-90s, I found an Ewok figure from the cartoon. Oh, my daughter used to love that cartoon. After a couple of years, the glue started wearing off, and I had to open it. I felt bad. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's difficult because sometimes in the packaging they look fantastic, and you just want to keep them in the packaging. Like this one here, as I said, I'm going a bit Jeeg crazy this month, so I also picked up this bubble kind of packaging. This was from the is later cartoon. I don't know if it's the 90s, 2000s. See if I can see a date on the back. Because if I open this, it just completely ruins the packaging. I mean, the nice thing about the box packaging with the, the polystyrene, at least it kind of still remains intact. When you think about the old kind of Star Wars figures, as soon as you open them, it just kind of ruined, didn't it? The kind of backing card. And I know people still collect those backing cards, and they're still kind of popular. But yeah, it's like you don't want to open them because it just ruins it, the packaging. But at the same time, I collect toys because I want to play with the toys. I don't want to just kind of have the packaging on display. The only figures I've got that I've never opened are actually quite new. And they were from the Super 7 Reaction line, and they did a series of the Universal Monster figures with Japanese packaging. And because I love Japanese packaging, I just had to buy that set of figures, and so I've got them kind of hanging up. And I haven't opened those, and I won't open those. They are obviously bubble packaging again because they're kind of retro backing card with a bubble. So I'm not going to be able to open it very well anyway. But I love the packaging so much. I just want that on display. But yeah, most of the stuff that I buy, I tend to want to get out. But it's annoying if you don't want to open it and then you have to. Like I know there's some vintage figures that deteriorate inside. So I don't know if it happened with Star Wars, but if you've ever seen the Leicester Toy Shop YouTube channel, if you haven't, highly recommend it. They're a vintage toy shop in the UK in Leicester, and they've done a great series called Toy Shop on Tour, where they've travelled Europe, they've travelled the UK, going to different vintage toy shops, and they really introduced me to a lot of toy lines that I never knew about. In fact, I saw some Micronauts on one of their shows actually a while ago. In fact, they might have been what introduced me to Micronauts actually. And yeah, I remember seeing one collector, and he had this packaged toy. I think it was Action Force, which was kind of like our GI Joe. I think it was part of that line in the UK. I don't know if they had them in America, but yeah, Action Force, and one of the things deteriorated, so part of it's actually dropped off, which is mad, isn't it? So if you're kind of a toy in box or mint in box collector, to have that happen inside, but you got no control over it, I think it must be devastating. So yeah, so I do feel for it if you don't want to open something and you kind of have to. So yeah, I'm quite glad. I think I'm not gonna. I hope I'm not gonna regret this anyway, opening this one. So yeah, it does feel bad. I'm right there with you. So let's have a look. Let's get these. See if I can get these on. I think they go anywhere. I don't think they have to go on a particular one. So you just slide on, nice and easy. Let me just remove that comment so you can see it. There we go. So there's Panzeroid. It's quite nice in the blue colours there. In fact, let me just move the camera again so you can see that a bit easier. So again, the original version, he's headless here, but you can see he was completely. Well, he's not the original version, but the version Amigo released for Force Commander, it was just completely white. So it's quite nice actually having the blue and white version, and that was the original. That was the original color scheme. Now I'm a bit worried about the tail because I have had one of these before, and once you put the tail in, it doesn't want to come out again. So I'm just gonna pop that in lightly so I can still kind of remove that if I need to, because they can get stuck and I don't want to do that. So let's still can't see this very well, can we? Let's move this back. There we go. It's a bit better. Unfortunately, my camera and my table, it's quite close to one another. So how are we doing? Yeah, we're pretty much there. Pretty much there. So I won't get all of this shot, but we'll focus on Panzeroid for now. Let's see if we can get him set up. So pull out. Isn't that the most horrid noise? Don't want to ruin the polystyrene. Let's give that a wiggle. Here we go. And my cat's trying to get out. I did warn you. The cat might try and interrupt the show. So we've got these little missiles here. So these little launchers. Now I'm not going to put in any of the missiles at the moment. Now I'm sure. Did I connect to one of these? Let's have a look. Yeah, there we go. So they should, again, don't want to force these on there, but then you've got this kind of magnetic joint there, and then that will go on there. And let's do the same to this one. So Briscoe says he used to have a couple of the G.I. Joes with the Japanese card backs. Wow. That's really cool. Were they quite different then? The Japanese versions? Was it just in, did it have the kind of was it the kanji writing on them? I haven't seen any of the Japanese G.I. Joe. Because didn't they, I mean, that's, again, talking about this line, if you're familiar with any of these at all, and I don't know if you are or not, G.I. Joe, Takara picked up the rights to those characters in Japan, and they, because G.I. Joe was obviously associated with war and I suppose the army, things like that, and that wasn't really a popular theme in Japan. They then took that mold, the G.I. Joe, the 12-inch mode, the big figures, and they did the transparent versions and turned them into these kind of cyborgs, and that's where we then got Henshin Cyborg. In fact, Henshin, if I remember right, I think Henshin means transforming. So again, the way it links all in with Transformers. So Henshin Cyborg, and then there was an issue with the cost of oil. So that's why they then produced these smaller versions, which were then Micromen. So Micromen essentially were just tiny versions of G.I. Joe, but in this kind of transparent, clear form. So yeah, so again, isn't it cool the way all these lines, Transformers links back to Microchange, which links back to Microman, which links back to Henshin Cyborg, which links back to G.I. Joe, which is really cool. Yeah, so the figures were the same, but yeah, they had the kanji and the art. Yeah, it was different, and that's what's cool, isn't it? When you see kind of different versions. I know Toys R Us is a channel that I follow and I chat to him on Discord. Again, if you haven't checked out Toys R Us's channel, not Toys R Us, Toys R Us. He has a channel all about vintage Transformers, and he does look at the modern Transformers as well and kind of compares them, which is really cool to see the modern versions and the vintage versions. But I know he collects a lot of the kind of the alternative. So yeah, he would get the Japanese versions, the European versions, all the different kind of paint redecos. He's really into all of that. And it's mad how many versions there are, isn't it, of some of these figures. So it is cool when you have a version of a toy line that's just you never saw it. So I know again with Micronauts, there's a Micronauti line, which is the Italian boxes, and again they're slightly different and just really cool to look at. So yeah, I do like to see what these other kind of versions of these characters look like. Yeah, which is cool. So Panzeroid here, he's got his missile launchers on there. All right, shall we give this a whirl? And so we can see there we've got some articulation. Actually moves quite nicely, that one. So obviously he can't turn his head, but we can remove that. Again, hopefully not causing any damage. So I'm going to take off Steel Jeeg's legs, or Kotetsu Jeeg, if you want to call him. And so now we get this kind of centaur mode. In fact, I'll remove this in a moment. We'll get a full view of him. So I'm just going to launch those fists, which again is a brilliant feature when you was a kid. You know, shooting out these fists is ace. And then I'm gonna very carefully remove these ones. So these ones have got the hole in, because I want to see if I can get these lance in place. So in fact, I'm just going to leave them out for a moment. See if I can get this one removed. Again, without causing any damage. So I'm just going to move this out of the way, because I'm not going to put on the wheels to Panzeroid. I don't think I'll do that in this video. That would scare me too much. So move that out of the way as well. So got a nice plain background to see what he looks like. There we go. So I'm just going to locate his weapon. Now what's nice about this, this is a reissue. So again, 1998 I think it was, Takara re-released this toy line. So it's, you know, there is a 70s version, but again, I can't afford that. So it's nice to be able to own a version of these. So actually that goes in really easy. That's good. Sometimes when you put the weapons in, they're quite stiff, aren't they? So should that go that way? Yeah, let's try that way. So I'm going to slot that one into place. And let's put that fist in place as well. Here we go. Push that back in. Yeah, I think I'm about to keep that in that one arm. That's it. It's sitting a bit better. There we go. And he looks really, really cool, in my opinion. I do love the version of these where where it all falls apart, apparently. Yeah, the version of these where they're in their centaur modes, I think just look amazing. I just love how that looks. I mean, if I was a kid in the 70s, which, you know, born in 1976, unfortunately, yeah, didn't know anything about these figures. But if I had this when I was a kid, I would have absolutely lapped it up. Love it. Again, I'm not going to put the missiles in, but he does shoot a missile out of here. You've also got the backpack. So if I just take the backpack from Baron Karza, so he's got a black version of that, and then that would then fit into the back here. So that just slots in there. So we'll put this black version in for now, so I don't have to remove anything else from that polystyrene, because again, I don't want to cause any damage. But he looks awesome. And again, the nice thing is with this figure is that you can kind of customize it. You could take the legs from the black version of this, which actually I haven't got. I'm hoping to pick up soon, which is Andromeda. And that was Baron Karza's horse. So you could have kind of, again, black legs on the white horse and just kind of mix and match it how you want to. And it's funny, really, because if you think of a lot of modern toy lines that are coming out, so I've seen a few kind of Kickstarters recently. One of the big things about these new Kickstarters is this kind of compatibility kind of gimmick, isn't it? The fact that you can pull off arms off one figure and stick arms from another figure on there. So that gimmick, which is years old from the 70s, you know, it's still going strong today, you know, because we just love that idea of being able to customize figures. I think if you're a toy collector, that swappable nature, I think, is just a really, really cool thing. Yeah, thanks, Briscoe. Yeah, and thanks, Louis, as well. Gonzalez. Apologies if I've got your name wrong, but thanks for joining me. on this occasion of opening this figure. A bit scary, but yeah, it's been enjoyable. Um, yeah, love it. So yeah, hopefully I'll get to do some more of these live shows. Now I've done my first one, and I've kind of got through that scary moment. I have got some other figures I wouldn't mind kind of introducing you to. Um, I don't know, Briscoe and Louis, and anybody else who's watching, if you've seen this character before, if you're familiar with it, if you're familiar with Micronauts or Microman, um, and any other kind of 70s kind of toys that maybe, not everybody knows about. I'm quite interested in that at the moment, discovering these toy lines that I've never seen before. Um, or kind of really take me back to my nostalgia. One of the lines I want to pick up, I've already picked up a couple of figures, is Rock Lords, which is part of the GoBots range, wasn't it? Which I know in the Transformers community, lots of people don't like GoBots, but I do remember like enjoying the GoBots cartoon. But Rock Lords, I had a Rock Lords figure when I was a kid, and I loved it. And so so that's another line I'm kind of looking at, maybe picking up a few bits. I'm not going to go all in, but I won't mind picking up a few of them. So so hopefully I'll do more of these in the future, showcasing some of these figures you may know, you may not know, and see what you're thinking of. So yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. I'm probably going to end it there. I think it's great to kind of share this with you. Yeah, so let's see what Briscoe is saying there. So I don't really know much about this figure, but I'm familiar with a lot of older Japanese toy lines. Yeah, that's the thing in it. The Japanese toy lines, how awesome are they? They're just fantastic. I just love their kind of the aesthetic quality of kind of old Japanese toys. Even tin toys, the really early stuff. I just think look amazing. But of course, with the boom of anime, I don't know if any of you guys are into anime. I got into that back in the 90s when we got a film called Akira. Came over here, that kind of launched the anime boom in this country, in the UK, and that's kind of what got me into it. And so then I started to discover all these other kind of Japanese characters and animes and manga, and it was just awesome. And it could just open up this whole new world. And actually, Go Nagai was part of that. So again, it's been really nice to see how all of this is kind of intertwined, and kind of connected to my kind of childhood and collecting Transformers and all of that. So yeah, it's really cool. So what? Yeah, thanks, Briscoe. I appreciate that. Thanks for the encouragement. As I said, this is new for me, so I appreciate the feedback. I really do. So yeah, we're coming up to an hour, which is a bit scary. Can't believe I've been chatting that long. But that's all for now. If you haven't checked out the channel before, thanks, Briscoe. I appreciate it. If you haven't checked out the channel before, do look at Dazatron's Diorama Llama. Look at the content that's already on there. There's lots of tutorials showing you how to make kind of bases. Quite simple. Some of them a bit more, I suppose, a bit more advanced. But there should be something for everyone there. Whatever level you are at in terms of your kind of craft or art skills, there should be something to kind of get you going. So if you're a bit kind of daunted by the whole idea of making your own bases for your figures, my channel is all about giving you the confidence and breaking down those barriers so that you can have a go yourself. You do need a bit of a setup, so you will need some styrofoam, which you can pick up online. In UK, it comes in kind of a grey format. In America, I think it comes in a blue or pink format. I'm not sure about other countries, but for my demos anyway, or tutorials, you will need styrofoam. And actually, the other stuff you need really is just things like a pencil, believe it or not, a ruler, a files, sandpaper. It's your normal kind of everyday kind of stuff that you probably will have in the house anyway. So the styrofoam is the main thing you would have to order in. But yeah. Oh, thanks, Briscoe, for subscribing from the D&D video. That's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, hopefully you got some ideas from that. And I love that line of toys as well. Really enjoyed the D&D figures. I know there's issues with the there's issues with the toys. I know they're not as people have had issues with them snapping, coming off. That's why I mentioned in my video about warming them up first before you kind of get them articulated or posed. But yeah, I still think they're great characters. We've been waiting such a long time for those characters. Loved Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon, when I was growing up. One of my favourites, alongside Transformers. So to actually get some figures for those that look good, that look like they do from the show, is amazing. And I'm just hoping that Hasbro, considering that I know they're having issues with money at the moment, I'm hoping they're still going to invest in a Wave 2, because I just need all the characters. I don't have to wait another 40 years to get the rest of them. So I don't know, did you pick up the characters, Briscoe? Did you get the toys at all? But if you haven't, again, like I said in my video, I would recommend them. So yeah, so if you haven't subscribed, please do like and subscribe. Please leave a comment. Yeah, I'm making these videos for myself because I enjoy it, but I'm making them for you as well. And so it's great to see feedback. Been really encouraged tonight. We were just having Briscoe and Louis kind of joining the chat tonight, because I wasn't expecting anybody to join tonight, to be honest, as this was my kind of first one. So I've been really encouraged to know that some people are kind of at least tuning in and having a look. So yeah, if you do kind of like the videos, please do leave a comment. It's a real encouragement to me to kind of keep that content coming. I'm not going to be making lots of money off these. I've got a day job. This isn't my day job. This is just my hobby. It's something I enjoy. And I want to share that with you guys. So, right. So Briscoe, yeah, from Canada. Yeah, haven't released them here yet, as far as you know. Okay. Have they ever been released in Canada? I'm trying to think. I did see some reviews of them in USA stores. I don't know if they're in Canada now. So yeah. Oh, that's a shame. I hope they do, because apparently they're already on sale in some parts of the world, considering they're not that old. So yeah, I hope they get there, because I think they're great toys. Just as I said, warm them up first if you're going to pose them. Right, okay, guys. I think I've been chatting for long enough today, and I'm encouraged to do more of these. So I will see you soon.